were growing. Everything was great. We were going to raise another round, and COVID hits. We didn't solve it in one meeting, but we made a plan, make some tough choices. We got to make sure the company survives this. Even if we have to shut off some branches like a tree in a storm, we got to make sure the roots are strong. You may have to cut off your arm, but you want to stay alive. You want to live to see another day.
Welcome to the Masters of Business podcast with Daniel Beer.
Well, what a cool episode this is going to be. This is Masters of Business. I'm back with you. And today, guys, I'm bringing forward my very first friend that I made as a child. And by the way, let's give this guy some shit here real quick. Not because he was so cool and I couldn't wait to be his friend, but because he was the only person whose parents let me play with them because of what a pain in the ass I was. But I was really lucky because it turned out that it was just one of the absolute best people that I've had the privilege of building a relationship with all these years. An awesome guy. We've had years and years of amazing memories, ups, downs, and everything in between. And he's turned into a hell of a business guy. So it's with great pleasure. David Tall on Masters of Business. Brother, welcome to the podcast. Could you have imagined this when we were kids? What's going on, man?
No, but I did ask my parents. They allowed me to be on your podcast, and they also said we can hang out. We can hang out again very soon. So you're still in the
Dude.
good
So
books.
I'm really excited to jump in with you here because while I've been doing my thing, you've been in like a really kind of different space, building and selling companies. I'd say you've become an absolute master of lead generation and really understand the customer journey and the process of conversion, and really turned it all into a science to the point at which you've sold two companies now. Well, your first was My Agent Finder, and the second one you just sold to a publicly traded call center software company. And that company was Verse.io that you built, sold, and it's just amazing, man. Like it's very cool. And so I want to jump in and dig into some of the lessons you've learned along the way. And there's, I think, so many things that we can extract, right? And I'm just going to start right here. When it like when you're looking at opportunity, how did you see this? Like, take us through the journey a little bit. And I don't want to get lost and, make half the episode all about like, the life story, so to speak. But take us through how you ended up in this space, because it's not what you went to school for, but what attracted you to it. Why do you think you've done so well in it?
Yeah, well, I think one of the best things founders can do is solve problems that they experience themselves, not try to come up with problems that they think exist. And they say a solution in search of a problem, right? Have a problem in search of a solution, right? And a lot of people, I think, just try to come up with, wouldn't it be cool if, but they don't really understand the if in that world. And so, I was trying to solve problems that I was experiencing myself. So I started off as after trying to make it in Hollywood, which I clearly didn't. I got into real estate, and I became a real estate agent, a real estate broker. I had a small office with a small, team, and I was buying leads from Zillow, Realtor.com, all these places. I was feeding my agents, and quickly realized that they were struggling to keep up with the lead flow and to follow up with leads effectively and efficiently, follow up long term. And so the first, problem I saw was there's not a lack of leads out there. There's a problem with how to engage with those leads, follow up with them, nurture them, and kind of squeeze the juice out of each lemon, right? Um, so that's how I approached that. And I think that when you approach a problem from personal experience, you really understand all the angles of it, and you're also more passionate about it, which is very important when you're running any business. Because if you're not passionate, things are going to grind you down. There's going to be problems. There's going to be storms that you have to deal with. And if you're not passionate, you're just going to give up very quickly.
So let's dig in there then. I'd love to hear, like, there must have been a time when you thought, man, like, I'm not even sure this thing's going to make it, right? Or this thing might crash right now. And where that grit that you just described had to be there. And this is something, what there's so many different entrepreneurs listening here. People that have businesses, people want to build businesses. There's people that have hundreds of employees to trying to figure out how to hire the first one. And the struggles though, like there's universal principles that I think can serve at every one of those levels. How do you or what do you remember in terms of like a battle that you really had to get through in order to be, end up on the other side as you have?
I mean, the first one that comes to mind, there were many, but the first that comes to mind, because it was the most pronounced, was COVID. And,
What business were you in at that time?
Verse.ai.
You were with Verse.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, so, we were growing, everything was great, we were gonna raise another round, and COVID hits, and the world just grinds to a halt, and we were in person, we were over 100 employees in a, beautiful office in downtown San Diego, and the culture and, foosball tables and ping pong tables, all the fun stuff, and, um, a big swag wall. I love how that's the stuff I remember, just the the not working. Um, but, um, going from that to almost overnight, just going remote, everybody leaving, customers all grinding to a halt, all saying, "I can't make our next payment until we understand where the world is going. We're all struggling. We're all
Yeah.
dealing with this." Um, and, we're a startup in growth mode with, money raised, but we were not profitable yet. And so all of a sudden, our burn went from this to this. And we were in a real tricky situation that I genuinely wasn't sure we were going to make it through. But you know, we you know we got in a room and we solved it. We figured it out. And we didn't solve it in one meeting, but we made a plan, I should say. And the plan was, hey, look, we're going to have to make some tough choices. We're going to have to make some cuts. We got to make sure the organism, the company, survives this. Even if we have to, shut off some branches like a tree in a storm, we got to make sure the roots are strong and that we can make it past this season to the next season.
So when a company's struggling financially, or there's suddenly a change in the weather, right, in the business climate, and it affects your business, where would you advise that people first look? Like, what's the first area that you think of to go cut? Is it advertising? Is it payroll? Is it brand aware? What is it?
I think there's a lot of nuance to it, depending on the business, and where you've maybe overextended investments because you were planning for something, and maybe that something doesn't make sense anymore given the climate. Um, I I do think that it's important to protect, the organism, right? Like, keep the body alive, right? You may have to cut off your arm, but you wanna stay alive. You wanna live to see another day. And if you do that, there's a chance that you can get the team back together. And that's exactly what we did. We made really difficult cuts with people that we loved and other expenses too, not just people, but, leaving the office, and cutting out a lot of other things and swag and fun things and nice to haves. You immediately cut all the nice to haves, that's for sure. Um, and then you go through and figure out what you're gonna have to do. I think it's really important to, you know, still be human and compassionate and do things the right way and not just be kind of a jerk about it. Treat people just as good on the way out, especially if it's no fault of their own, because you want to attract them back to you. And that's exactly what we did. And when things stabilized and things started, kinda humming again, we reached out to the same people that we had let go, and almost everybody came right back.
So how do you let okay, like literally down maybe even in the script you use, so to speak, or like take us into the conversation of how you let someone go and do it in such an elegant way that they're willing to come back and fight for you again. Because most people, it's interesting, man. Like you see in the business world, and like everyone's good when it's good, right? And everyone's like above board, does the right thing when it's like things are flowing. But it's interesting watching when there's turbulence, when the things are get rough, and particularly those human interactions, like the way the way someone walks out of your organization, it's you never know how like important that's going to be, where it's going to be. So, do you have a certain approach? Do you have a framework to how you handle a tough conversation like that?
I think it starts much earlier than the termination event.
Okay,
Starts
good.
by building a lot of trust and transparency as a company. And so one of the things that we were very, very focused on from the earliest from when we were 5 people was, let's make sure everybody knows how much revenue we're doing, how much money we're spending, how much we're burning, how much runway we have. Let them understand what's working, what's not. Let's not just give pep talks to pump people up and keep people excited. Let's let them know what icebergs we're trying to avoid. Let's let people know what is rocking the boat right now, and what we may have to do if we don't solve things. And that's meant to be a form of pressure, but positive pressure. Treat everybody like an owner. And you'd be amazed, like, and so when you do that, and then, people totally understand. And we let people go who were crying, and I was crying, and but they would say, "But I understand why you're doing it. I totally understand. I respect your decision. Like, I know this isn't personal," because they understood the business dynamics, the fundamentals, and understood very clearly that this wasn't about greed. It wasn't because I wanted a bigger boat. I don't have a boat, by the way, but they understood it was because we were doing what we needed to do for the sake of the company and for everybody. And we told the people that we wanted back. We said, I really hope that you find something else, but if you don't, when things get better, I wanna see if you'll come back to us. And, we kept our word, we did that. Um, and for the rest of the employees, even at that time, everybody took a pay cut. Executive team took the biggest to set the example, but everybody at the whole company took a pay cut to so it wasn't just cutting people, it was cutting everybody's salary. Everybody had to feel the pain together. And we said, if everybody doesn't take a pay cut, we have to let go of more people. And by doing this, everyone is sacrificing together because we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to row to the same island in the same direction. And these are our colleagues and these are our friends, and in a large way, they're like a family, who were with us for many years. And so having everybody have kind of a stake in it, I think also really helped.
I think how many people would you say walked out because not stormed out, but basically walked out because of the pay cut?
0.
I mean, you have to build an unbelievable amount of, like you said, of trust, of transparency. Like it has to be like real. They can't be core values up on the wall that you look at once a quarter. Like it has to be very, very real. By the way, good news is all you need to do is get like a little canoe or something. You've got a bigger boat, right?
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
It's, um, but
One of the
really,
other things we did though, which it's like, do what you can, right? So we did what we had to, but then we did what we could also, which was, well, we have equity. And if we're gonna give people a pay cut, hey, in return, we're gonna give you a little more equity, everybody. And so that also showed people, hey, like, we're treating you like owners,
well, they
uh,
are. Yeah,
and you're owners literally now, and we want you to be in this for the long run because we have a big vision here, and we want you to,
it's so awesome.
be a part of that story.
That's so awesome. Give us like how many employees are we talking about, right? So we get an idea of the scope of the company.
At our peak, we were 130 or so, 140.
130 W-2 paid employees. So, um, you know, the part of this conversation I love so much is like I think the business world is just an arena for it's a big mirror for really like the only things that actually and truly matter, which is not most of any of this stuff out here. But like things like integrity again, easily said, thrown around, it's thrown around loosely. But what is it? And when you're speaking, like what really happens is the people stuck around, in my view, the people stuck around, didn't leave. I mean, you people taking a pay cut, that's an easy thing to say. Well, people build their lifestyle around their income. And it's really easy to get that lifestyle creep, as all of us know. And it creeps, it creeps, it creeps. And it's so when you take a pay cut, I mean, that's a really challenging thing because for a lot of people, that puts them in the red over the course of a month. But ultimately, I think human beings, like we are really, I believe, like we're really spiritual beings. having a human experience, right? We're not humans that sometimes like tap into like those special things like integrity and so on. And so when you're being that transparent, David, when you're really letting them know how things are, where things are, it's not all pep talks, here's the good, here's the bad, and they see it. Like cuz one thing is to do it out of manipulation, and another is to do it out of sincerity, like regardless of the outcome, right? Like I'm unattached from the outcome. I'm just going to approach with truth. People are radically magnetized toward that because we all are like it's I think life is a big process of remembering what we've all like our spiritual roots. And one of the only things that really matters at the end of it all is things like that, right? Authenticity, truth, and integrity, and that's a huge display of it. Um, I love that. That's going through something like that, dude. How would you say your business journey, and there's so many other parts of your journey we haven't gotten into, but how would you say that things like what we are discussing now have changed you as a person?
I mean, it made me, incredibly empathetic. I feel I always had empathy, but it's one thing to kind of, be a caring person, another to have people's financial fate and their families, what feeds their families in your hands. It's a very different level of responsibility. And so I think that it made me more empathetic, but it also made me feel a lot more responsible for everyone. And when you're growing and things are going well, you're just hiring, and there's a little ego about it too, and you're excited, and everyone's following along and everything's great, and yeah, we could buy that, and yeah, we could spend on that, and yeah, sure, let's get the premium package. Yeah. Um, and after something like that, I think that every decision we made from there on out kind of went through a different filter, a decision making filter, which was, is this a nice to have? Is this a must have? Um, is this something that if we spend means we have less to spend on our own team, on their development, on their leadership training, on raises, on bonuses? Um, and so I think that one of the best things that came out of that, was kind of a realignment of priorities, and realizing that the big office and the big swag wall and the ping pong table are nice to haves. They're not must haves. And what is a must have is a strong team that cares about the mission and feels cared for and feels looked after, and that they have a career path. And people also don't want to just be stuck in one place. They want to know that they're, like all of us, we want to grow, right? We want more, not out of greed, but maybe it's a spiritual element. Like we want growth, spiritual growth, personal growth, self improvement, and I think that translates in the workplace in different ways. People want to know that they can contribute more, have a bigger impact, and certainly make more money because they also have bigger dreams and goals in life too. And there's nothing more rewarding than helping people accomplish that. Some of the most rewarding experiences I had as a founder and CEO was when an employee would tell me they just bought their first home, or that they got married, or they had a kid, or that they married someone in from the company. And we had a couple people get married, that were employees. Um, I don't know why HR didn't have an issue with this at the time, but and even babies. So all of that, you realize that when you put together a company is one word, but there's another word, which is, a community, and it's a community of people, a mini city, right, of people that are all doing different things, different tasks, for the wider effort. And there's just something really powerful about that, and that's probably one of the reasons I will likely get back into it at some point.
So, a few things I want to ask you about, man, with from that. It's really good. Like, so when we're talking about people's growth, something that I've always struggled with is of course, we want to create these career paths and growth paths and so on. But then I find that sometimes it's like, well, hold on, like you're at the top of that department. Like, I don't know where to send you, and like even I kind of get stuck in that. How do you think about that? Or is it that it becomes more so like growth in other parts of their life? Is it just about income growth? Like, You know what I mean, David? Like, am I
Absolutely.
articulating this right for you? Okay, go ahead.
Absolutely, and I think this is something a lot of executive teams struggle with, and that's why they say it's lonely at the top, right? And because of some of that, and but I think that another perspective is not how much higher you can go, but how much more impact you can have. And if you give people maybe they're already a C-level title, and the title can't really get higher than that unless they want your job.
Right.
Um, but so as an example, um, if you have a C-level, exec, and they're doing what they're doing, and there's not a higher role for them, um, then there could be a bigger impact they can have. And how can they have a bigger impact? By helping the business grow. And as a business grows and spreads into new industries and accomplishes new things, that brings fulfillment. Just having impact, I think, is really what creates ultimate fulfillment more than the title. The title, you can say someone is a VP of marketing, a director of marketing, a CMO, uh, and depending on the size company, some of those are more necessary than others. Um, but at the end of the day, what's really going to bring them fulfillment after they show it off on LinkedIn that they're a CMO and they got the C level? What's really important to them? It's having impact. It's being really needed. It's seeing results from the work they're doing. Ultimately, that is what's going to drive, I think, people to stay and create more and more impact and trickle that down.
How do you get connected to what is important to them?
I think knowing your team is very important. I think one of the interesting things that COVID has also done with remote work is you used to only see people when they came into the office, right? And see them at the water cooler or whatever, and and talk to them in between breaks, and you don't really see behind the curtain the rest of their life. And one of the things I thought was really interesting with COVID was being on Zooms with employees and seeing their little kids running around in the back and seeing their house and kind of the background in their bedroom, and uh, and just things like it's hard to kind of describe, but you get a fuller picture of just who people are, and I saw people with like really cool guitars or comic books, and I never knew they were into that. So it's knowing your team, I think, is important. One of the things Avi, my brother and co-founder, did. Was we would take 2 employees out, 2 to 3 every month. We would do like a random, draw, and we would take them out to lunch. A anyone. And over a few years, it did take a little while, but over a few years, we took everybody out on just a personal kinda just like a 2-hour, not a quick lunch, like a 2-hour lunch. We even took people down to Tijuana to, like, really, like, bond with them. And people that we would never speak to, not because we wouldn't want to, but they were just a few levels down, and they had other managers. I had managers, and had no idea who they really were and what they cared about, what they were passionate about. And I learned amazing things. People who overcame crazy diseases, people who had crazy lives that they grew up with, people who had incredible passions and big dreams. And maybe right now they were working for 50 grand a year, but they had these much bigger visions and dreams. And I think that really helped us connect to everybody. Um, and so ultimately you want to do that, of course, with your immediate team and build a strong culture because that builds trust. Um, but if you can, and I know it's hard to do if you're Google, but if you can on the way up to becoming a Google, do it as much as you can.
It's really, really good. It's a way of scaling yourself. And I'm always looking for those ways, right? Of like, how do you connect with everybody and give time to everybody? Everyone wants a part of you. Like you're the company to some degree is it's you. They're buying into the company. They're buying into the founder. Buying into the CEO. So, what have you found were the worst parts? Like, what did COVID take away? Not COVID, but what did remote work? Because I love your perspective there, David, and like that's very cool. And I have to admit something. Like, you just helped me change my perspective because I'd see someone in their bedroom, and in my mind, I'm like, dude, get a more professional background, right? But it's so true. And so, but what did you find that remote work? Because you used to have this gigantic sales floor. I mean, huge, and one of the most prestigious buildings in San Diego, downtown San Diego. I mean, it's just gorgeous place. And then you went fully remote. So, what were the challenges?
I mean, there were many, you know, culture and all of that, and, having a great team is one thing, but you still need to run an operation, and you still need to keep people productive and results driven, right? A company has to be results driven. I said a company's like a family in a lot of ways, but Reed Hastings of Netflix would say it's actually more like a sports team. And I know you know that I don't know much about sports, but what I do know is that every person on the team has a responsibility, and you could be the best team, but if the linebacker isn't, doing his job, then the whole team suffers. It's not just like that linebacker is not going to have a big career later. The whole team suffers, and so a family is different. You can have a family member who's just a downer or doesn't do much, and they're still family. You're still going to love them and accept them. Um, with a team, it's a little different, and so a company is more like a team than a family in that way, and so you still need to keep people productive because everybody's relying on them as well. It's not just about them; it's about everybody. And so that's one of the hardest things I struggled with was with going remote was how to manage that because I would literally just kind of plop down on a seat at the sales floor and just hear people and just sort of hear people talking and give them feedback. It wasn't to be critical, it was to help them. It's all about helping. A manager's job is to, help people, not just, you know,
Oh,
be
I
there.
love that. There's
Uh,
a guy in my industry, Gary Keller, right? He built Keller
yeah,
Williams, huge, big one of the. I think it's still the biggest real estate company out there. And he talked about managing by wandering around. That was a term he used. Just
yeah,
managing by wandering around.
absolutely. I interned, I went to UCLA for electrical engineering, um, and, never did anything with that, but, I interned one summer at NVIDIA, and I should have bought stock, but I didn't.
I didn't know
Uh
you entered there. That's awesome.
Yeah, I interned there a whole summer, and Jensen, Huang, the CEO, who's still running it, had the same philosophy, and he had a cubicle in the middle of everybody. He didn't have some fancy office, and even back then, it was a huge company already. I mean, multiple huge buildings and amazing, and they had like Wolfgang Puck was like one of their chefs. It was crazy. Um, and they would cook for everybody. But this guy wanted to be in the middle of it, not secluded. Um, and I assume he's got some similar philosophies today because that's just something that you're born with, like that mindset of no, I want to be amongst everybody. I'm not special. I'm one of the team members. And I just thought I just always remember that especially with the rise of NVIDIA and what it's become, I've taken that as a lesson of, you know, being in the bullpen, being in the fight. And, when you look at those kind of war movies, right, from back in the day, Braveheart and others, or where were the kings? They were the first one, they were at the head. They were fighting with everybody. They weren't just kind of laying back. They were fighting with everybody. That doesn't happen now. Presidents and generals, they're in the background, they're in situation rooms they're they do not have the same stakes, as everybody else that they're throwing into the battlefield. And I think that when you're asking a salesperson to make cold calls, which is very hard to do and could be tricky, it's one thing to just be like, "Why haven't you made any sales?" It's another to listen to them, be one of them, and say, "Hey, let me take the next one. Listen to me." And let them learn from you. So I think that stuff, just to kind of circle back, is what I think we struggled with the most going remote because there was so much less of that in person. And I would go around every morning and I would give 100% of the employees a fist bump and say hi in their name. I wanted them to know that I knew who they were, that I was giving them 2 seconds of my time, but just it's a recognition and an acknowledgement, a bow, you know? And I would go and give everybody a fist bump and say, "Good morning, how you doing?" Asking them about their kids, asking them about anything really quickly. Every single morning, that was the first, kind of 10, 15 minutes of every single morning was doing that. And to me, um, what I recognized later, after COVID, after we went remote, was that I wasn't doing it so much for them, I was actually doing it for me, selfishly. it was energizing me to connect with everybody. It was energizing me to, you know, physically connect with everybody for a second and just see them in the eyes and say hi, as simple as that is. Um, and of course you know, it was good for everyone, but I still to this day really miss that.
Dude, that's so good. That one hits hard for me. Just because I stumble into the office running into my first appointment, like straight to the computer, rev up a Zoom. But that's huge, man. That's such a good way again of leveraging yourself. And like what I really hear you talking about is how do you avoid becoming the bottleneck? Right? Is that some but still, even even still, like I'm curious if there was ever a time when you recognized, like, hold on, I'm the lid. I'm what's holding back our next stage of growth. And how you handled that, what you did, who you put in place, or just what you recognize what the step was there, if at all. But have you ever recognized yourself as like, hey, maybe I'm the bottleneck to this part of the business?
You know, so it's so important. And something that took me a while to learn. So a couple things I'll say about that. One is, um, first off, you want to hire people that are better than you at those roles. There are a lot of CEOs or founders who try to hire people that they can manage and they can teach, and then you become a talent bottleneck. Um, and I hired heads of marketing who were way better at marketing than I ever was. I hired heads of sales that were way better at sales than I ever was. Um, and with engineering, of course, and all of that, I don't know the zeros and ones anymore. And so you want to hire people that are better than you. And then to bottleneck them with processes and to try to, give them feedback at every step, it is another form of a bottleneck. It's like a process bottleneck. And that's unfortunate because you're hiring these people because they know better than you. Now, you still have to have metrics and scorecards and we follow traction. I think you do too. I think we've talked about it. And so there's scorecards and there's measuring and you still have to measure progress and results and dig in and find out what's going wrong. How can we help? What can we do? Do you need more resources? Or ultimately, are you the wrong person for this? Which also happens. Um, but um, Delegate and elevate is something that always stuck with me. And anytime there was a task, I would ask myself, can I delegate and elevate? Um, Elevate both.
What's the elevate part?
The elevate is, you elevate that person's responsibility and you elevate yourself kind of above it, to not be in the weeds. Because and this doesn't work with every role, but as a CEO, um, you're captaining the whole ship, and you can't get too bogged down in any one, in the engine room, right? You have to be able to keep looking ahead, and one of your primary roles is to keep the vision and the long term vision, because a like a plane. I've heard this analogy going from San Diego to London is actually off course 97% of the time. It's going like this constantly, right? It's adjusting to winds and altitudes constantly. But the captain has to keep London in sight and just keep adjusting constantly to make sure that they land in London. And so, I think that's the same with a leader, and certainly any leader of any department, is to say, "Here are the big goals, the vision. Here's what we're trying to go this year, this quarter, this month, whatever it is," and have a bigger vision too, the next 3 to 5 years, and keep your focus there. Because if you get too bogged down in the, "Well, this ad copy, had this one misspelling," and by the way, I did this. I made all these mistakes. I was in the weeds way too much. It was only when I pulled myself out and I said, "Does this really matter? Will this really matter a week from now, a month from now?" And I said, "You gotta let some of it just kinda go let the river take it, and just kind of keep looking ahead, keep looking forward." It cleared my head, and it let me continue to look forward, and one of the things that helped me do during COVID was to realize that, hey, we can actually, offer our service not just to real estate, but to all these other industries. And I think if I had stayed, and that ultimately led to us growing past COVID to our best years and selling the company. Um, But if I had been bogged down with every minute detail of everything going wrong and not trusting my people to do the right things, I don't think I would have ever had the time or headspace to get there.
So I recognize myself. I recognize two mistakes that I've in myself through this conversation. One's either really in right, like really on top of the person, really in the weed. Like basically, you hired a person and I do their job for them, or delegate. Like, hey, cool, hired a professional, go do it, but lack of measurement. And
Mm,
so my takeaway, David, like what I've written down, and if you're listening, maybe you need to write this one down. It's autonomy, but with measurement, right? It's give the person autonomy, measure what they're doing, coach them where they need, see if they improve, or you continue to get the results you need. But you need to measure, coach, get out of the way,
absolutely.
get
Uh,
out of the way, and there's no doubt about it. I don't want to bog us down with like a personal story because I want to stay here with you, but it's like I've actually finally gotten out of the way in one area of my business recently. It's crazy how much better our sales meetings are. It's crazy how much more excited our agents are to come into work. I mean, it's a big deal. So I want to talk about like especially because there's people in all different industries from chiropractors to attorneys to uh just people in B2B, B2C that are listening and building companies, compensation models, I think, are tremendously important. And I'm curious what you've learned about how to motivate, um, like what really moves sales and what really moves management and leadership, and how and what the role of compensation is in that. How you like to structure somebody's comp package to drive at the result and the behavior that you're looking for.
yeah, it's a
You
super.
had to have made a ton of mistakes, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, maybe only mistakes. Um, but it's a constant moving piece. Compensation. It's not a set and forget. Things change, the models change. You start changing your pricing models, and all of a sudden it affects all your salespeople in a different way. Um, and so it's a constant. And we had a really good CFO who was much more than a CFO. He was just deep into strategy with us. We had two really great CFOs in our time with Verse. Um, and they were very good at helping us run a lot of numbers and kind of scenario planning for comp across departments. And I'll give you a couple tidbits. So, sales is sort of a unique department, because in my opinion, should be a uncapped salary or compensation that they can earn. There should be uncapped. They should be able to make $5 million. Why not? That means they made you 30. Right? Why not? So that's one that, has to be aligned, of course, to your goals, and that they're bringing in the right kinds of customers that stay a long time. So you want to incentivize based on retention, not just initial sale, but retention and satisfaction and all of that. Customer success teams, you want to incentivize with different metrics, right, around, customer satisfaction, NPS scores, retention as well. Um and then there's a lot of departments, like how do you comp, kind of your internal, accountant? How do you comp, internal, legal person or, just like a receptionist? How do you comp someone, other than just their kind of base salary? And this took us a long time to figure out, but what we did was we created, with Traction, with the help of Traction, which I highly recommend, we created, annual goals and rocks, right? And kind of the annual, kind of the big rocks that we were trying to achieve, rocks being the goals that we're trying to achieve this year. So one year we said we want to hit this much in revenue and we want to get profitable. And this was like through COVID. We were like, we want to control our own destiny. We don't wanna ever have to create, that situation. We don't wanna be responsible for we wanna be responsible ourselves in the future in a different way, and so we created these goals and we said, "We're going to hit this much in revenue, so keep growing, but more modestly and balance that with getting profitable." And what we did was we aligned everybody to the goal. So salespeople still had their comps and commissions and all that, but we gave everybody in the company a group comp model based on hitting those goals. And so That's
Typically off of sales and revenue or profit?
sorry?
Typically off sales, revenue, profit, like off what?
Well, we based our goals on revenue and getting profitable for 1 quarter, the last quarter of that year. We said we wanna be profitable that quarter by the end of the year.
Okay.
And we wanted to hit, we wanted to have like 20% growth, I think it was at the time, in top line revenue, right? But what that did was it aligned everybody. The people that were on the phones with customers were constantly thinking about, and by the way, this is something we reinforced weekly and monthly and meetings and everything. Like, here's where we're at. Here's the goals. We had a thermometer saying, here's how much we burned. It's dropping. We're getting closer to profitability. We're on pace. We're off pace. Same with revenue. And so everyone was really aligned. And when people were making decisions, this is what really fascinated me. And it was when we were making decisions around what new software to get for a customer service platform. Um, in the past, it was what was easiest to use, what was the coolest, what was the best known one, and the conversation switched to, what will save us the most money so we can hit the profitability metric. And that happened across the board. So many people started to say, I don't actually need this. I'm actually not using Zoom. And by the way, Google Meet is free and we're okay with that. Salespeople kept Zoom, but everybody else switched to Google Meet. And it came from our employees saying to us, I don't know how much this costs, but we don't really need it. And we have licenses for them. So if that can save the company money, great. And that is what you want, right? You want everybody aligned. You want everyone rowing in the same direction. You want everyone to feel like an owner. Because guess what? You and I, as hardworking as we may be or smart as we may think we are, um, we don't have all the answers, and we don't see everything that's going on, the waste and everything else. But if you have 100 people that are all looking out for you, you're going to find hell of a lot more of opportunity for new ideas that will drive new growth and for ways to save money as well.
Really good. Really good, dude. I'm gonna shift gears a little bit here as we kind of come into the back end. I've been really, really impressed with you're also just a really good investor. You build passive income. You have a deep passion for it. You've done it through real estate, through apartment investment, and when you look at most hardworking entrepreneurs, most people that make a lot of money, some of them make a lot of money, some of them don't. And it's interesting how little correlation there is to their wealth based on how much money they make. Like there's people making a lot of money with not a lot of wealth. There's people that make just good steady money, but it's not, quote unquote a lot, but their wealth is growing substantially. If you were to like speak into the heart of people going to battle every day in the world of business, but like why? What are we doing it for? And put your investor hat on. What advice would you give them that ultimately like they need to make sure they don't lose sight of? And then like maybe even a strategy, like what's the game plan for somebody like that, right?
I think I think just like in a company, you want to have a vision of 5 years from now for the company. I think it's important for people to have a personal vision of what they want their life to be like at 60 or 65 or whatever age, and what kind of lifestyle they want then, and sort of try to work backwards a little bit. And it doesn't have to be super detailed, but for me personally, from the moment I met my wife, we had the same aligned idea, which was we want to have enough passive income that at some point we can maintain a really great lifestyle, but not have to work. We may work because we love it, but we don't want to have to at a certain age. And we calculated what that is, and we've been working backwards from it, and now forward towards it, right? And so to us, it was create passive income. It wasn't I want to have X amount of money in the bank account, because what is that good for? Um, I want to have X amount of money coming in every month automatically. And that could be in the form, people can set up all sorts of different financial vehicles for that they can talk to financial advisors about. I, of course, was always passionate about real estate, and I feel it is the number one best, smartest thing people can do is to buy cash flowing real estate because it gives you that monthly income that grows over time as rents grow. It gives you tax benefits on top of that, and it has appreciation built into it. So over time, you can sell some of those assets and take some cash out, do it again, or 1031 it into another property and just keep it growing. And so my wife and I, anytime we have, a little bit more money in the bank, we don't just kind of stare at it and go, "That's great." We go, "What can we do with it that will make us more money every month?" And so I think that that comes from, but that comes from having a long term vision. Because if you think about it in the short term, it's hard to kind of invest money for the long run. When you want to go on this trip this year, and you want to do this, and you want to do that, and you want to buy this car, and you want to buy this bigger house. There has to be a balance for everyone of how much do you live your life and enjoy it, which I think you should absolutely do. But what small amounts are you investing towards the future, your future self that is gonna look back and be like, thank God I had that foresight 20, 30 years ago, and made those bets, because now, um, I had a great life, and now I'm gonna have an incredible, back third of my life, that's super stress free, that I can give back, that I can help other people and not even care about getting paid, that I can just be with my grandkids, that I could, travel the world. Um, so I think,
So you need a business plan for your finances.
absolutely. Absolutely. And look, if you're making $1,000,000 a year and you're spending $1,000,000 a year,
You're
you're
poor.
broke. You're broke, right?
You're actually poor.
You're poor. You may have a really nice, uh, watch or car to show for it at the time, but you're broke, you're poor. And if you make 100,000 and you're saving, 20, 30% of it every year, um, and you put that into some, 6, 7, 8%, 10% investments, that's gonna be worth a lot more 30 years from now as it compounds. Yeah, in the millions, exactly. People don't realize that with compound interest. So yeah.
And I mean, clearly this isn't like the investment episode, but it's just guys like it's one of the things I'm most impressed with David for, right? Because I see him like he builds these businesses, he goes to fight and battle every day, he enjoys it. I've learned so much. Dude, I'm like, more impressed than ever with just some of your what you've grown with, and like it's amazing to see and watch. I'm like, I love you, I'm proud of you. It's like it's
Likewise.
no wonder why like you're having so much success, and so thank you for so many of those nuggets, right, that I'm going to implement. I have a couple things I'm absolutely going to bring right into my company, um but all while you have this vision for what your life is, what you're building, and how you're building true wealth, not income. um not the active income, or hey, cool, I have a big company, but what about tomorrow? So like watching you take care of the investment side, if there's no other takeaway guys on that, it's this: have a business plan for your finances, period. And it's going to be a really simple exercise that if we could take every listener, lay you out, like, right, like lay your finances out 20 years from now, who had a business plan for their finances, who didn't. It's going to be amazing to see, or would be amazing to see, how there would be basically zero correlation to your income and absolute correlation to the plan. And so just have that in mind. David, to see us out, dude, like, so you've sold your company, you're I mean, I know your head's always going. You love the game of business. It's and this is what I love the game of business. But do you see how, like, what I want you to recognize, guys, is it's a place to go and grow personally. Like David wasn't this guy when he built his first company. And so it's a place like when they talk about business as a spiritual journey, it's that it's a big mirror of life, and so we get to go and play in it, and make mistakes in it, and triumph, and it's a personal growth journey, and that's the best part of it. And since I know you're not done, dude, like, what are you working on, thinking about? What's the approach? There's so many opportunities out there. How do you know when you're looking at one worth pursuing and not? And I'd love to get a window into what's next if you know what that might be. And also that framework, frankly, of how on earth, with all the possibilities in the world, do you actually make a decision on what to do?
Yeah. Well, right now, one of the cool things, one of our investors from Verse approached me after the exit and said, "Hey, do you want to help us on this side of the table, help help founders that we're funding, and help us find the next generation of founders, who we should invest in and put money behind." And so it's a really cool experience right now. I'm with Modern Ventures, and they are a big fund and investing in really cool companies across prop tech, fintech, insurance, sustainability, AI, robotics, just super cool. And I'm getting the chance to work with a lot of really incredible founders um, who have big dreams and big visions and big ideas. And, I think that, and I told him, I was like, "Just FYI, I need to carve out some time because I'm gonna keep following my own entrepreneurial journey, and I'm gonna probably come up with something to pitch them in a year or so," right? And they loved that, and the title they gave me was Entrepreneur in Residence. Basically, I'm an in-house entrepreneur working for them, to help them find, kind of other founders to invest in. Um, but keep to my roots as one myself, and I think that's really cool. Um, so I'm doing that, and I think that what we look for and what investors are looking for is more than anything, yes, there has to be a good idea, and it has to be a big, addressable market, the TAM, the total addressable market, and they have to have the right, people and team and vision in place. But ultimately, what I find is people are investing in the person. It's like you're investing in the jockey, not the horse. Um, and and that's because of everything we just talked about, right? They're investing in the people who are gonna be able to make it through storms and not just give up and not run away, and not cower, that people who are gonna be able to make tough decisions during tough times. Um, and, tough times create strong people. And there's another I forgot the other I'm gonna butcher it, but
Tough times create strong people. Strong people create um, good times. Good times
create
create
weak people,
weak people, and weak people create
tough times.
hard times.
Exactly.
Hard times create
Thanks for saving me.
strong people.
Thanks for saving me.
It's
But
Tony Robbins 101, man.
exactly. By the way, Tony Robbins, shout out. In terms of the investment side of things, a book I just finished reading, which I really loved, was Money Master the Game, from Tony Robbins. So I recommend that one to people. But ultimately, you're investing in the person. Do they have the right integrity? Do they seem like they're going to be compassionate people? People who are going to build a good team, a team that's going to want to be with them, that isn't going to run away. Also, when times get tough, they're investing in the founders themselves, the character of people more than the ideas themselves.
Dude, really good. Really, really good, man. This has been a lot of fun, and it'll be cool to watch the journey, and I can't wait to just sit with you, dude. We'll share a meal. We'll break bread really, really soon. And this is Masters of Business, guys. That's David Tall. Give him a follow on Instagram if you want to follow his journey, dude. I love the brilliance. Like you went to work at a VC company that's basically going to fund your next idea. They just don't know it yet. So
Uh,
that's that. You're a master strategist. I love that. All right, guys. This
Thank
is
you.
Masters of Business. We are out, and here's the only thing that we ask. We bring you all this amazing content. There's no charge. There's no nothing except for just give it a like and give it a share. It tells the algorithm that people are enjoying it, and it tells the algorithm to share it with more people so that we can continue to spread all this goodness, all this wisdom, and that the business community can continue to, just get everything it needs. So that's our one and only ask, and we're going to continue to bring it. We'll see you right on the next episode.